Hey guys, just want to do a quick video about thoughts on goalies and how, after talking to a lot of GMs, we have similar thoughts to hopefully be a springboard for, fun discussion, not necessarily advocating for any rules or anything, because I think kind of like where goalies are right now. But let's just talk and just to get other GMs' thoughts and people like some of my previous videos. So let's get right into it. I think obviously we know that a goalie's value in the DHL is not just their skill, is the team quality. Like Gibson's on the Ducks. At one point, he was considered the best, if not one of the best goalies, right? In the league, but his team sucks. So his DHL value is low. And, the NHL parity is not that fast. If we look at the West, for example, I was looking at it, and only the Wild, is a playoff team versus last year. And, okay, maybe the Flames if they keep their 8th spot. But for the most part, you have the Ducks, Sharks, Blackhawks, and last, and it's really hard and long to improve. So that's what, like, a while ago when John and Derek were, complaining about goalies, and I was like, I'd have to say I was blind to their plight because I was blessed with good goaltending. But when you have parity that's also slow in the real league, and you have DDHL GMs keeping, the Hellebucks, the Aiden Hills, the Skinners, the Ottingers, the Demkos, whatever, the same goalies, it's going to be really tough for you to improve really fast, right? If we look at the ways to improve by the farm, like Dan has with Ottinger and Saros, and maybe Ninot with Askarov, it takes a while. And the challenge is the team's peak also has to peak with the goalie. So Askarov, hopefully his peak lines up with the Sharks dominating, so then he can get a lot of value from Askarov and in increasing his chance to win the league. And for Dan, like Ottinger and Saros have been on good teams for a bit, and that's why Dan has had years with success, like last year where he went all the way to finals, and his duo has been feared by a lot of GMs in the league for a while now. You can trade, but again, it's hard to trade the very elite, especially goalies that are on a team that will be good for a while. Except Gabi traded Vasilevsky and Bob on the same night, but usually it's hard, and usually it's either trade for a goalie that has like question marks, like Logan Thompson, right? But then Gas was able to trade for him, and now the Capitals are at the top of the league, number 1 in the league. And when you look at the Capitals, it's like a trade that looks like it's going to pay off huge, because if you look at the Capitals, I looked at their schedule, and even though they've been like rotating, they've been going mono Thompson. And it's funny, when they were rotating the last 8 games, Thompson won 4 and Lindgren basically lost every game, and 2 of them by shootout. So unlucky for him that he got unlucky, and now they're just going with Logan, and now that looks like a big win for Gas. But again, you have to take a bit of a gamble. And in draft, again, like this, I'd love to say I was a genius for Allmark, but that year I drafted Allmark, Talbot, Francouz. I knew they were all dice rolls, so I threw more dices, and one of them hit. And like that year, I love people bringing up the too many goalies thing, but it's like, after the first 2 rounds, like people should know that in the DHL, like even skaters, it's just a dice roll, right? Like whether it's prospects or young forwards, and you should throw more picks at a position you're worried about. And that year, I was really worried about goaltending. But again, not really a consistent way to improve fast. But now the reason I started feeling this is less of a problem is because starting to talk to a lot of GMs who are selling early or not in the playoffs, and I think they feel the same way about their offense, that they don't have the point per game players, the key guys to compete against the top teams in the DHL this year or right now. And so that makes me like, why do we feel different about goalies? That like maybe we should feel the same way, that it doesn't have to, we don't have to make mechanics or like come up with rules to make sure that people can improve significantly fast. And maybe should require, it's like a feature that you have to be patient, you have to build and get good goaltending or get good point per game players, and then we can sort of try to accept that as a fact and improve everything around that. And I'll end this video talking about chimp equity and a concept well, it's obviously chip equity that got twisted with an influence from poker, but this is what I would call like your percent chance of winning a DGHL chimp. And it's just like the athletic. I don't know. Not everyone has the athletic, but it's really just percentage of winning. And you just want to, okay, I can't really pull it up fast, or can I, Dom? It's really, is there an example? Okay, there's season projections. Anyway, is there a percentage of everyone's percentage of winning the cup or winning the DDHL chimp every year? And our goal as GMs, I think like we love acquiring great players, but the ultimate goal is to win a chimp, right? And it doesn't, and you want to like maximize your chances. The way we think about it in keeper league should be like maximizing our chance over, like, let's say the next 10 years. Doesn't matter if our chimp equity is 0% for the next couple of years, if our plan is to have it be like really high for those years where our team peaks. So, right, our plan is just to maximize at some point in those 10 years, or you can be a team that's like always in there, right? And that means that you're always, let's say, even if you're 10% to win a chimp every year, right? That you're eventually going to, the odds of you like eventually winning one is pretty good. So like there's different approaches. You can like be a balanced team over the years, or you can just like try to spike and create a dynasty. But all that to say that, like, if we use chimp equity, this concept, and talk about like why John might not trade Makar for Igor, or why I might not trade Kaprizov for Igor, is because like, and Gas has realized this before, he would give a kidney or his newborn for Igor. But it's the fact that even though the chimp equity that provided by a skater is lower than a goalie, as Barry has mentioned many times, and we know this, that goalies account for still, even with 11 categories, a good percentage of the entire set of categories, but it's also because it rests on the shoulders of two active players, two active goalies versus 12 plus 6, 18. So like each active goalie holds a lot of weight in how good your chances of winning are. But because they could be on a bad team, or the team itself can have a bad year, it's more volatile. Now, these aren't exact percentages, whatever. I'm just like, I made this just to show a point, which is why you might prefer a player that like contributes to your percentage of winning in a more consistent way, and another player that goes up and down a lot. But it's when they are on a great team, it's like a huge spike. So, for example, I think Logan Thompson, even if he might not be great in the future, maybe he's not as good as we think, or he loses his job to Lindgren at some point, whatever. Like, his future is more murky right now because he's not established himself as an elite goaltending. But at some point, even though there's like season to season volatility, usually at this point in the season, we can sort of project or guess how good a rest of the season might, probably looks like. And I think Logan looks probably pretty good for the rest of the year. So I think he can provide a lot of chimp equity to whatever team. And another observation is like chimp equity, is not equal to every team, because if you're at the bottom, obviously your chimp equity is 0, and having any point per game guy or a super goalie added to your team does not necessarily increase your chimp equity, right? Because your team is just like so bad that one or two pieces, like, you're still 0% to win a chimp. But all that, I'm just trying to say, like, that's why it makes sense for a team in the middle that requires a goalie. They're more incentivized. Like, they have a chance to win, and then a great goalie can increase that by a lot. And so I think that if you're in that position, I don't know how many examples there are of like a Logan Thompson right now, where he's a great goalie, but his future is kind of murky and his reputation is not there yet. But I think if you're a team in a running, that type of player has a lot of value, in my opinion, versus I think you should be, when I think about it more, you should be willing to overpay for someone like him because, okay, yeah, it's because like when we think about, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that usually the league, all of us, when we value trades, I think there's a bias towards a guy that has a great future. We're thinking about like their keeper value and how many years or how good he can be for the future. But I think a team that's competing should be willing to overpay because you know that you're a competing team this year. This is information that you have that's known versus the future where, it's possible you're a shit team. And if you're a shit team, a lot of assets and how they contribute to your percentage of winning is not as valuable to you because, they're not, you're not a good team. Versus like the current year, if you're one of the top contenders, you're good, and getting an asset that contributes to winning this year should actually be more valuable to you than someone else. And hence why I think there's an argument to overpay even for, someone that might not have as much keeper value than another. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. But I'm struggling to think of an example. Okay, actually, I thought of one. So, for example, but it doesn't really come up because these players also have to be on a bad team that is willing to trade them, right? So, for example, when all of us knew Darcy Kemper was, I think we knew, had a 1-year deal and wasn't necessarily going to stay as an Avalanche, but he had these sparkling stats. I think Jake already had him, so this example is not really useful. But like him, even though like his next year, you don't know, right? He went from basically one of the best goalies in the league or to have to not. I think he wasn't even basically the next 2 years. He wasn't that playable, and so that's the risk, the up and down that you see. But if you're a competing team and you're missing that one goalie, I think that's the exception where you should be willing to just overpay for that guy because of the impact it has. Even if it's a single season impact, the impact is so big that you should be willing to overpay for that, right? But again, I'm not entirely sure how often this is gonna play out right now. But anyway, hope I offered some thoughts, and see you in the next one.